Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Today we have a really exciting webinar hosted by Holly Lewis and myself, Finney from Vivid. We're going to be covering Accept.Blue Gateway. This is a really big hit over the last year, and I think it's going to be a really big hit going into the summer. It's a gateway that has pretty much everything you need from interchange optimization, ACH, check processing, recurring payments, scheduled payments, hosted payment forms, customer vault, invoicing, fraud protection, and it even has the ability to be white labeled. So I'm going to hand it over to Holly, and she's going to take us through this wonderful gateway. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
As Vinny noted, the gateway, it is a fully white labeled solution. So everywhere that your merchant has visibility to, they're going to see the Vivid Gateway logo, the URL, their login screen. It all will show as a white labeled solution. The Accept.Blue side of it, we like to stay on the back end as your technical support team. So all support out to merchants, that's handled directly by you guys, but we're here to back you up. If there's ever a situation that is more complex that you need to bring a merchant into a conversation with us, we just ask that you remain in the conversation as well. So whenever you first go into the gateway, you're going to be taken to the dashboard, which is just general overview of the last 30 days worth of activity. These are all clickable and they go out to the different tabs that are associated with the reports that you'll see here. You'll also have the ability to do news blast out to your merchants. If there's anything that you want to communicate, there's a box to do so here. The only changeable option from this screen would be from light to dark mode. So you have that visibility for their viewing preference, whatever they would like to see. And then from there, we can go into process transaction. So with the gateway, there is 3 different ways to take transactions from the process transaction tab. You can do it by credit card, ACH, if they have a account set up with a check processor. We support Paya, Vericheck, and Maverick. And then we also integrate into card present solutions with Equinox. So you have the ability to link either a 6200M or an 8500i Equinox Lux terminal to the device. And then you would initiate your sale from the gateway. It would go through to the terminal. They would be able to process a card present transaction. If you have a terminal link, there would be a box here to do so. But as far as taking payments through the gateway, you have the ability to build a customer list. And this would be cards listed here. You have the ability to add a wallet for them that can house all their different payment types. You can set default cards. It's going to show you the history for individual customers, their invoicing history or recurring history. If you go back to the process transaction tab, if it is a customer that you have on file, you're just going to select them from the list. If not, you're just going to name this or type in this box what you would like the record to be named. And then you have the ability to create a new customer. So it'll link it to your Rolodex per se. So if we select a customer in here, it's going to pre-populate any of the information that you have within your customer record. If they have multiple cards on file, you can drop down and select the one that you would like to choose. And then from there, you're just going to run your transaction. So let's put one in here. We do have surcharging capability. There's actually 3 different types of surcharge that can be set up on the account. You can do compliant surcharging with TSIS, non-compliant or like a convenience or technology fee, which you can change the wording on the receipt to match what the merchant's preference is. And then we also have dual pricing available for invoicing. Dual pricing will also be rolled out to additional sources here in the near future, but currently it's limited to invoicing, and that'll allow you to change the wording on the invoice. It will not say surcharge anywhere, but depending on how you configure the percentages or the dollar amount for your surcharge, it'll either say credit card, and it'll have your price versus paying by check or cash, will have a different price associated with it. I'm not going to add one on this, but if we go down through, you have transaction details. These are pre-populated ones. You can add an invoice number, PO number, or description if you wish. Their billing and shipping information, if you have that saved on your customer record, will automatically populate. Otherwise, you can type the information in. There is also 20 customized fields that can be added to the process transaction tab or the hosted payment pages. And they are custom records for the customer. They can name them whatever they want. They can set them to be required if they wish. That's done under the control panel and in custom fields. And those can then also be added to the receipt. So if you were to type one in there on your receipt, you have the ability to fully customize the receipt to show whatever you would like it to show as far as the fields in the gateway. Those custom fields would be listed down at the bottom here. You would just check the box. You can rename the word that the customer would see however you see fit. Go back to the process transaction tab. Let me go here. So once you're ready to process your sale, just hit process transaction. This is going to bring up a receipt for you as far as your view in the gateway, or the customer's, merchant's view in the gateway, just to let you know that it's approved. And it's very clear. If this were a decline, it would say decline, and this area would be red. So it's very easy to distinguish between the two. And then you can email or print a receipt from here. For batches, this is going to be your current batch, so your open batch view. Merchants have the ability to manually close the batch from this screen, or they can have it set up to auto close up to 3 times a day. And that is done within your reseller portal. And here also you can see a queued list, which is pre-authorized transactions. Anything that is set up on a fraud module as far as AVS or CVV, if it doesn't match the fraud settings that they have in place, what it'll do is make it essentially a pre-authorization, and then the merchant can decide from there whether they want to accept it or not. So those would show here as well. If they have a pre-authorization, all they would need to do to actually capture or receive the funds for that would be to come into this screen. There would be a box that they would hit that says capture, and that would add it to their batch for the day. Your check batches are going to be separate, as well as if they do have a terminal on here too, they would have a drop down that they can switch to an Equinox device. If they want to see batches that were closed previously, they can click this. It would have prior batches. There's not any listed here to show you, but it's going to show you the batch time. All that is listed. And then anytime you see an eyeball icon in the gateway, you can click that. That's going to give you more information on that transaction. For invoices, you do have the ability to create a product database. So they would be able to come in here and hit new product. They can keep record of their inventory from here. There's not any kind of ordering features from here, but it will keep count of quantity for them. If you have a merchant that is looking for a more involved invoicing feature, or they're looking for something that integrates in with QuickBooks, we do offer integrations with Biller Genie, Hyphen, and Veroso that can do so. But for our invoicing, to create a new invoice, they just click the button. They can again choose their customer or create a new one. They would fill out the information for it, and then they can also manually do products as well. So if they have just a service that they offer and they don't want to add a whole catalog of products, they can just type the information in here. Down here, they have the ability to set the percentage of the invoice that is required. Let's say they're shipping out a product, they require a deposit of 50%. They could switch this to 50 and apply it. And then that would allow the customer to make half of a payment on the total invoice, and that would fulfill it as partially paid for the merchant to be able to take action from there. Everything with invoices is totally customizable as well. They can do their terms, they can add notes, they can customize the email. Under control panel, they have invoice settings where they can add their logo to the invoice. They can change the information that displays at the top of the invoice. They can set how their invoice numbers increment as they add additional. And then they can also set surcharging and how they would want it to be labeled if they're not using dual pricing. And then this is the email portion of it. So I went over customers. Just to point one other thing here, if you have a customer or a merchant that is coming on from another gateway and they have a customer database that is already built, if it has card details, we can take care of an import for them using a PGP file. All they would do is utilize the link that is available on the API documentation, or you can email us and we'll send that to you. And then that file is sent over from that other gateway to transfers at Accept.Blue. If they have just customer records that do not include card information, they can actually upload that right from here. So they would just come in here, there's a template they can download, and then they can upload it from there. For recurring transactions, they have the ability, this is set under the process transaction tab. So let me show you with one here. So if we go to the recurring tab here, I want to create a plan, and let's say we name our plan, it's a magazine subscription. So they could name this however they want to identify the actual plan itself. They can set their first run date, how often they would like it to run, and then how many times they would like it to run, or if they want it to be ongoing. Once that's established, their plan's going to show up in the recurring. They have the ability to monitor this for plans that have failed. If it fails for a month, it's going to run the next month. It'll fall into there. Under control panel and general settings as well. They're going to have the ability to set how many times. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we lost you for just a second there, but I can hear you fine.
Right, let me bring it back up. All right, I think we're back in progress. Can you guys see my screen again?
Yeah, you look and sound great. Thank you.
Okay, so under recurring billing, you're going to have the ability, let's say they wanted to retry 3 times before it falls into the next month. They can also set the exact time that they would like their recurring transactions to run. With our recurring, they would also have the ability to adjust the amount of payments or the next run date at any time. You don't have to worry about a billing cycle or anything with it. As long as it's at least the next day out, they can change that at any point. Moving into reports. So one of the things that I absolutely love about the gateway is reports are totally customizable. If they were to click here where it says the 12 columns selected, this is their view of what columns are going to show on their reporting. In this list, there is every single field in the gateway. That includes their custom fields that they added. If they wanted to look at the states that they've shipped to, any of that can be generated within this reporting. If they have a view that they set here and they want to see that every time they log in, they can hit the 3 buttons. It's going to give them the ability to save the current view. They can reset it back to the default ones that we give them initially, however they would like to set this up. They also have the ability to separate reporting by source. And what I mean by source is the way that the payment is taken. So let's say they create a payment page, they just want to see reporting for their payment page. They would select the name of the payment page in this list, and that'll show them just transactions that came through there. They then have the ability to email or print their receipts, or excuse me, their reports. And also you can switch by check processor, their normal processor. You can do card check. This is a donor association fund. If you have anybody that does like nonprofit donations, they can set it in the gateway to track those so they don't have to keep track of receipts. And then charge, refunds, the status of the transactions are all available here. Their schedules for the recurring are also listed in the reports tab. There would be the ability to see their recurring transactions based off of the schedules that are ending soon, or if they have expired cards and it needs the payment information updated. All right, so payment pages. Payment pages gives the merchant the ability to generate a URL that can be emailed out to customers to receive payment. This is different in by invoicing in the fact that it's just a straight amount that it's for. It's not individual line items. With this link, they can also embed it into their website to take payments from their website. I will say that if you are going to have a customer that is embedding it, you will want to make sure that it's behind some layer of security, whether that be a login or different information that's entered in on the website in order to get the link. You don't want them just posting it on their open website just to protect it against card testing. With the payment pages, I also recommend making sure that you set up fraud controls. Whenever you create a payment page, it is going to add a block here with the payment page ID on it. So you have the ability to set them at a source level. If you want to set controls over everything, that can be done under universal. Velocity control is always going to be there as a default for you. But if you're adding this onto a payment page, what I would recommend doing is starting out with velocity control on the payment page and locking it down to as low of number as possible. So you really want to get an understanding of the amount of transactions that they plan on having through that payment page at any given time. I try and make the time period as low as possible. So even like a 10-minute period. And if they don't expect any more than, say, 3 transactions in a 10-minute period, I would mark that as such. And then I would also make sure that this disable source key when limit is reached is set. And what that does is if somebody were to come onto their payment page and they were to start card testing. So let's say they tried to push through 4 transactions in a 10-minute period. Once it hits that 4th transaction, it's going to shut down the payment page. So that would keep them from getting any fees associated with the transactions that are fraudulent. Once the merchant has everything squared away, or they've deemed that the transactions that are coming through the payment page are valid, what they could do is go into control panel, go to source management, and then they would click on, let's say this is our payment page, they would click on edit source, and they would just toggle this back to enabled. That opens it right back up on their website. So to create the payment page, what you would do is click new payment page. The first box is going to be the name that's displayed on the page. So let's just name this. The URL is what they would send out to the customer to make a payment. The very first portion of the URL, this is hard coded. You're not going to be able to change that, but the slug here is what you're going to set. So you can name it something that identifies that merchant is usually what it's named to, just so if you send it out to a customer, they don't think it's fraudulent. You then have the ability to set the payment page to accept straight sales. So that's captured and funded straight through the page. You can do a pre-authorization, or you can set it to just collect customer information. So let's say you have somebody that is with another gateway. Currently, they're coming over to Vivid Gateway. They don't want to do or can't do the PGP transfers. They can create a payment page. And what that'll do is they could email out that link to their customers. They can say, hey, we're switching payment processors. Please utilize this link to add your card on file for us to continue your plan or whatever they have set up. They would then be able to just take that information. It doesn't have an amount or anything associated with the page, and then that would create the customer record for them. I'm going to let that on charge for this example. You have the ability to set light or dark mode again. And then we do have 2 pre-made templates that are what are typically utilized when creating the payment page, or you can create one completely from scratch. So I'm going to keep it on the template. Once we hit save, the payment pages, it does need to be unique. So if you are doing this, you'll need to make sure that you're not reusing a name. Once you save this, this is going to take you into the template. Everything in here is totally customizable. So let's say you don't want invoice number. It's set to be required right now. If I take that off, I can easily delete that. Everything in here as far as the boxes, the titles, the colors of the page, you can add images to the background. However you see fit is perfectly fine with configuring, and everything with that is done under boxes. So let's say we want to add surcharge onto the payment page. What you would do is go over to the boxes, you would locate the box that says surcharge, and then you're just going to drag it on to where you would want it to add on the box. To set it, click into the box. It's going to bring up a column over here on the right-hand side, and let's say we want it for 3%. And then they can put their disclaimer in there if it's doing compliance or surcharging. Add that on there. If we decide we don't want it, just delete it. And then let me add amount back on here so I can show you. With the amount, you have the ability also to set the amount here. So if you were to put it on the field and let this open, the customer is going to be typing in the dollar amount that it would be for. If you want to set it, what you can do is come over here. The display is what it's going to actually show to the customer. So let's say they have 3 products that they're selling, and it's always sold in like a variable one. So what I could do is I could set the display to be like 1 plant and a dollar amount. And then this is your actual value of how much it's for. You can click the plus sign to add additional. So let's do 2 plants. And then so on from there. So once I have this squared away with the way that I want it to be, I'm going to save. And then this is the link that goes out to the customer. So if I click this, this will essentially be what the card holder would see whenever they come to make their payment. And here, they would be able to choose the different options that were typed in. I will state that the payment pages from this aspect, it was rolled out earlier this year for being the editor. So this is going to be changing for quite some time. We're adding on different abilities every day as far as different drop downs, different presets. This has quite a bit of development that's going to be done to it still. If there's any recommendations that you guys ever have or situations that come up, feel free to bring them to us too. We're very open as far as what we're willing to add into the gateway to make your life easier. We want it to be a fully customizable solution for you. We did go over fraud controls a little bit just to show you a bit more with those. Whenever you go in here, these are the different filters that you can set. So there is a lot of different options in here. We do also offer 3DS verification through pay. So if you have anybody that wants to do 3DS, that is available on invoicing and hosted payment pages. And it can also be coded to their API if they're set up to pass the values that pay provides. So if you were to have 3DS configured on the account, you don't ever want to add it on universal just because it does not apply to process transaction. And if you were to set it there, it's going to decline all your process transaction payments if you don't have everything checked essentially. So you would want to make sure that you go into invoicing and would set it from there. In addition to that, you do have ABS filters. Keep in mind that this is what you want it to allow. So if you're looking at ABS filters, let's say you want it to allow an address match, no match with address, but allow zip code, no address match, but not a zip code match. You can set those, save it. What it's going to do is if it picks up on a transaction that's processed, and let's say the ABS response is something other than match, it would put it into the queued transactions. It's going to come up with a pop-up on the screen whenever it is captured like that, where it hits one of those filters where you can edit the information. You can just go ahead and approve it, or you can void it out automatically. In addition, I believe we went through pretty much everything under here, but user management. So this is the different users that have access to the gateway. And here you're going to have the ability to set their permissions. And then up here in the corner, you have the ability to do transaction settings. So this is everything that shows on process transaction for card and check. You can set whether you want it to display on the screen, to be a required field, or hide it altogether. If you have somebody that wants to do surcharging, but they don't want to allow it on every transaction. So let's say it's a doctor's office. And if they're running a payment from insurance, they can't do surcharging on that of any kind. So what they're going to do is go to surcharge, and they could let this as displayed. So as long as it's not set up in the reseller portal, they would then have the ability on the process transaction tab to wipe it out if there is any value in here. It's not a preset hard-coded amount for them. If you have an individual user that needs to see it a certain way, so let's say they're the only ones that run payments that charge tax, you could come in here and you could hit edit user. You can go to transaction settings, and anytime you see the username after transaction settings, that means that you're setting it for just that user's view. From there, then you could hit this to be required, and you could put it as 6% and save it. And then on every single transaction that user runs, that's going to be a hard-coded value for them. Now, the gateway does also offer interchange optimization. So whenever you are configuring a merchant or boarding them to the gateway, you're going to have a tab in the reseller portal that's labeled level 3. If you turn that on, there is some different fields. Let me pull up a screenshot for you. Get to my headers.
I don't think we can see it, but if you want to just speak to it, Holly, that's fine.
Okay. So on the level 3 tab, you're going to have the ability to set the transaction as taxable. With level 2 and level 3, there are required fields and it's all or nothing. So you either fill them in completely, or even if you miss one, it's not going to qualify. So you really want to make sure that everything is filled out. With the level 3, it does require it to be a taxable amount. The tax rate that you enter in has no bearing on the overall transaction. So it's not going to add tax to your sale amount. It is just for level 3 record keeping. It does have discount rate and discount amount. They're pre-filled for you. You don't have to input anything into those boxes, but you will need to put in a reference number, a SKU number, a product name, and a description. That information, I usually say keep it relative to the field that the merchant is in. So if they are a counselor, under description, you could do professional services or something along that line. You don't want it to be like a starter of a car or something that you have listed in that box for that type of business. As far as product reference number and SKU number, you absolutely can obtain that information from the merchant if you would like, on, let's say, their best-selling product. Otherwise, you can fill the information in. Just make sure that it does look valid, that it's not like 1, 2, 3 or all zeros or something along that line. Same with product name. You can name it whatever you want. Just keep it valid to the type of business that it's for. And then you're going to add a commodity code. With the commodity code, there will be an exclamation point off to the right of it that takes you out to the website where all the commodity codes are listed. You're going to type in the type of business that you're looking for. I will tell you, they don't always come up with the most common one first, so you may have to sort through a couple pages to find one that is close to what that merchant is doing. Just don't overthink it. There's a lot of different categories. You don't have to have it exactly what it is, as long as it's close. Once you have that information filled out on that tab, that is going to be submitted with every single transaction that is processed through any of the sources in the gateway. And what that'll do then is, if it is a business, corporate, or government card, it is going to apply to qualify for the best possible rate. The only piece of information that is required from the merchant side of the input would be the AVS zip code, and that's required for MasterCard. So you want to make sure that the merchant knows, to qualify for the best possible rate, they must enter in the AVS zip. If you would like, you can definitely go in here and go to transaction settings and make it a required field. That way they're sure not to just process the transaction and skip over it.